Hello everyone, ArtsyTashann here. We are jumping straight into Saturn because if you saw the length of this video, you can probably see why it took me so long to get around to this. That's right, this entire video is just the speed paint of Saturn. I started with thinking that I wanted to go with the common bonnet for the inspiration. I got the rings right where I wanted them and decided to add some clouds too since Saturn is a gas giant. I did the same thing on Jupiter and decided to keep with the theme. Now came for the fun part, for all those moons, and yes, I counted all of them by hand. Looking back, I immediately see some issues with what I was doing. The moons looked kind of bubbly, looking more like a pattern than an actual array of moons. What sucks is that I ended up getting everything outlined before I realized that I actually didn't like it. It was my mom who pointed out that the moons looked weird, and I ended up trying again. Second attempt was looking a little better. I liked it a little more, and then I started counting again. I got a perfect 274 on those moons, and I was really happy, until I made an approximation of the outlines of them and I decided I didn't like any of it. Several hours of my life I feel I cannot get a refund on. So I dramatically erased all of that and started over. This time, I went with something called the parasol mushroom. What drew me to the parasol this time is that it already had some fuzzy texture on the cap that looked a little like clouds, and the skirt kind of resembled a ring. So I rolled with it, in orange this time, for some reason. After I figured out how I wanted the rings to look, I added the clouds and the stripes. I was very sad that I had to redo all of the moons all over again. I tried to make it look like they had some kind of orbit around the planet, but it didn't really work out. And drawing inspiration from my original version wasn't very helpful either. When I first drew this mushroom, Saturn only had 96 moons. Now there's 274. Back to the moons, I was already having a hard time fitting them all together. It ended up requiring 4 different layers, but I called it good enough and started outlining the actual mushroom. The mushroom so far was definitely looking more like the way I pictured, which was definitely a good sign. But then it came to the moons again, the bane of my existence. Wow, it was looking a mess when I finally got everything on there. Nonetheless, I powered through and I got the lettering on there, and I thought I was starting to like it. Famous last words. I color picked out the colors of Saturn's stripes into a little palette, and started coloring the actual mushroom. In hindsight, I really should have started with the rings being a lighter color, as it just looks super drab against the mushroom and the dark one. I did have quite a few difficulties trying to color the moons since I didn't close them correctly, and guess what? I didn't like it in the end. This next attempt was me getting to my final straw. I was really fed up with how long this drawing was taking, and I just decided to throw my ideas at the canvas. While I was working on this, someone actually asked me, "Why are you doing math?" And I just responded with, "I'm trying to draw Saturn's moons, and it isn't working." Not sure what they thought of me after that comment, as they probably wouldn't understand the struggle here. Anyways, I managed to get the moons where I wanted them and began outlining everything. So far, so good. I liked where everything was placed, and I was happy with the fact there wasn't a whole bunch of white spaces and gaps. The whole drawing was looking pretty filled in for the most part. Outside of this canvas, I believe I also did a sticker check to make sure the picture would cut correctly if printed, because, shameless plug alert, I have a business. All of these planetary mushrooms will be available for sale as stickers and hopefully posters in the future. I am working on a website that these things will be available on, so please look out for that in the future if you would like to support me there. Returning to Saturn though, I remained pretty dubious of these moons as I kept working on them, because I had no idea if I was going to suddenly hate it. But I didn't. I managed to get through all of these moons without hating them or making too many significant changes. It actually went relatively smooth. The final steps were just a million adjustments. Adding some shading, a glow around the mushroom to make it pop from the moons in the background, and a little fun fact for you, not all of Saturn's moons are spherical. Some of them are even potato or ravioli shaped. But after 100 million tiny adjustments to the colors and little changes, it felt like it was finally done. And oh my lordy, this took a ridiculous amount of time. This took like 3 whole weeks, and it was such a grueling process. Redoing everything over and over just to try and make it look right. I really wanted to post this video last week, however I had a craft fair in Marysville that I had to prepare for, and I completely ran out of time, but I am so happy with the way this looks now. I am really glad that I spent the extra time making sure this looked right to me, and I'm really happy with the result. I do still kind of like the original, but it isn't my favorite really. I really like the way I've remade Saturn, and it really needed an updated moon count. Like seriously, 274 moons? That's a whole lot of moons. Last time it only had 96. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It took a really long time to make, but I'm glad that I did make it. And I really hope to see you next time. That's all for now. Bye-bye.